Hey guys, what's up? This is LGS here, and today I have a really special deck profile to do, and this is gonna be one of those. For those of you who don't know, it's one of those really interesting Vanguard happenings in Japan. So this deck is about Thing Saver Abyss deck profile. So this is indeed a hybrid deck between Royal Paladin and Shadow Paladin. But before I get to the deck profile, I want to talk a bit about some of the interesting facts about this deck. So sorry for the sort of prolonged intro, but yeah, I just want to talk about this because I think it's quite interesting. So for those who don't know, Thing Saver Abyss deck is created by someone in Japan who was really creative. Where after in Japan, BD16 came out first, then it was followed by EB11. So Thing Saver was out first, and then it was Abyss was out. So someone had this idea to combine these two because official Bushiroad rules state that Royal Paladin decks can have 10 Shadow Paladin cards in their deck. So this rule was provided because of MLB, Majesty Lord Blaster. So Majesty Lord Blaster was a card in the olden days where it requires you to run Blaster Dark as well as Blaster Blade in the deck. So therefore you must have Shadow Paladin. So that rule was there so that people can play MLB. So someone decided to use that rule and take advantage of it and combine Royal Paladin as well as Shadow Paladin together to make a Seeker Abyss deck. And Thing Saver, for those of you who don't know, is a card that can swing for your opponent 3 times. So if your Vanguard can attack your opponent's Vanguard 3 times, which is devastating. And Revengers are well known for its consistency. So combining the two, you have a deck that is consistent and yet very powerful and Vanguard focused. So it can do very well against decks like Kagero, Narukami, or Link Joker that screws your rearguard, because this deck doesn't rely heavily on rearguards because you can have it is a Vanguard centered deck. So that's why this card dominated Japan. It was first place in a lot of Japan tournaments. Even in Japan's national tournament, it won first place as well. So yeah, so basically after that, Bushiroad then banned it. So now Royal Paladins can only have 4 Blaster Darks in it. So that's Japan. I'm not sure about English though. For those of you who know about it, I didn't do my research because I'm not sure if English allows this deck yet. But for now, I'm gonna do a deck profile on this. And if you notice, the sleeves are different because I'm too lazy to re-sleeve the cards. I just built this on the fly because I myself personally don't plan to make this deck or play it. So I will not be having any matches of this deck unless I can find a friend who has it. So I'll be linking some gameplay footages which I find, which is really nice. I'll put some links here, so yeah, check it out. So now let's get to the deck profile of this deck and I'll explain why it's so consistent. So for the starter, you run Wingle Brave. Okay, so Wingle Brave was also an important card in MLB because his skill allows a very consistent way of searching for blasters from the deck. So basically his skill is that when you boost a blaster and it hits, you can put in a soul and search for a blaster from your deck. Basically a card with blaster in this card name. So this synergizes really well with the grade 3s, which I'll show you later. So grade 3s, some of you may be wondering, what? Why? This is interesting because grade 3s is a very interesting lineup. So first you have 4 Thing Saver Dragons because Thing Saver Dragons is your finisher. The whole idea of this deck is to be able to reach a point where Thing Saver can restand twice in that turn. So the conditions for him to restand twice, for those of you who watched my previous Thing Saver deck profile, you need 5 souls in here to get his restanding skill. So this deck allows you to do it very extremely easily. So it's very consistent in that. So yeah, so the main idea is to finish on with him. So run 4 because you need him in the deck to perform his skill. So run 4 so you have high chances of having at least 2 copies of him in the deck when you go off his skill. So 4. Next, you run 1. Yes, just 1 copy of the Phantom Blaster Abyss. So for those of you who want some guarantee, you can probably run 2 for safety. But this deck is based on some of the deck profiles I saw from Japan. So most of them just run 1 Abyss and it seems to be working very well. So yeah, mostly Phantom Blaster Abyss is not there to use his skill. He is mostly there to perform Legion, so that by the time you write Thing Saver, you have 5 souls and you can wreak havoc with Thing Saver skill. So that's grade 3s. Yep, that's it. Grade 3s, you only run 5 grade 3s. And you may wonder, what? Why? How is that consistent? You have this guy. Wingull, on turn 2, you will boost, and hopefully your opponent will let it hit, and then you search for the 1 copy of Abyss. Turn 3, write him. So I'll explain how this deck works later on, but for now let's go to deck profile. Grade 2s, we run 4 Blasterblade Seeker because he is the mate for Thingsaver, so you want more of him. Also, this deck you want a lot of grade 2 blasters because turn 2 is where his skill goes off. So you want to boost a blaster, hit your opponent, and search this guy. So that's 4 Blasterblade Seekers because he's number 1 he's blaster and he is the mate of that. Number 2, you run 3 Blaster Dark Revenger Abyss. So Abyss is the mate of this guy, and you run 3 because you only Legion with him once, so you don't need too many copies of him in the deck. And he's also there because of the name Blaster, which works well with your starter. Next, we run 4. This is a bit weird, but some of you may question this. We run 4 Mercart. Mercart is there because he allows you to have free pluses. So his skill is whenever your Vanguard Legions, you can Superior Call a Revenger in his card name. So this deck will have some Revengers inside as well, so he works well. And next, we run 2 Blaster Dark Revenger. Ideally, you actually want to run Blasterblade Spirit, but I don't have him because he's quite old card. But Blasterblade Spirit is very useful because the thing is, I'm running him because I need a blaster. Because if you notice, my grade 2s are mainly blaster cards with blaster in his name because you want to pull off Wingull Brave skill. So ideally, you want to run Blasterblade Spirit because because he's a 10k base, so if you're able to ride him turn 2, you have a 10k base defense instead of this 9k. So if you have Blasterblade Spirit, run him instead of this guy because he's much better. Yeah, so anyways, next grade 1s. So yeah, if you notice that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's 13 grade 2s there. And most of them are blasters, so that you have high chance of pulling off Wingull Brave skill. Next, you have 4 Perfect Guards, because Perfect Guards are Perfect Guards. It's always useful. Next, you want 4 Lake Maiden Lien. She is there because, number 1, you want to set up for Legion. Because this deck, you want to, ideally by turn 3, when you ride him, Legion your Abyss. Because you want to quickly accelerate your soul to build up to Thingsaver and attack your opponent 3 times with Thingsaver and hopefully win the game. So make Lake Maiden Lien is there because you want to rest, discard a card to set up a drop zone, and then draw a card to hopefully search for Thingsaver if you don't have Thingsaver in your hand. And then next, you run the Flail Seeker. Is Berserk 2 copies because he is a very good 12k base, because when you call him, if you Vanguard's Legion, he gains 4k, so he's 11k. So on that turn alone, he'll be 11k booster or 11k attacker. So it's good to have some kind of power push in his deck. Next, number 2, I run Honor Seeker Sinric. The thing is, he is a 10k attacker for Seeker, but ideally you want to run Knight of Friendship K because I don't have him either because, well, he's an old card. But Knight of Friendship K, he's a 10k attacker for blasters. So ideally you want to run him instead of this guy because you want to use him as turn 2 rush, because turn 2 you're most likely going to be a blaster Vanguard, so you want a 10k attacker for blaster. So the thing is, your Vanguard, right, turn 2 can be a Seeker, it can be a Revenger, it can also be a Blasterblade Spirit. So it is not advisable to run him because consistency wise it won't work because you may not be guaranteed a turn 2 Seeker. So you want to have Knight of Friendship K because turn 2 you are very highly likely to have a Blaster Vanguard. So he's a 10k attacker for Blaster. So run him instead of him. Okay, so you can choose to run 4 of him to guarantee that turn 2 rush, because you want to rush early on and then hopefully finish with Thingsaver. So you would probably want to run 4 of him instead of the 2 10k attackers. So yeah, that's him. Also next we run 2 Masquerades. So he's a 10k attacker for Revengers. So by turn 3 he's also useful because by turn 3 you ideally be riding Abyss. So he'll be a Revenger, so you can use him as 10k attacker. Or let's say you ride into one of these Blaster Revengers, so he's also a 10k attacker. So turn 2, try to rush your opponent by turn 2, so that they will guard your rear guards and let your blaster hit. That way your Wingle Brave skill goes off. Next, we run one Trumpeter because turn 3, when you Legion with him, you can use his skill to call Trumpeter, and use Trumpeter's skill to call a Grade 0 Revenger to hopefully pull off his skill as a backup. So you can use his resending skill as backup, but ideally you wouldn't use his skill because you don't want to use up the Counterblast 2, because you want to save it up for Thing Saver's finishing 3 attack push. For triggers, we run 4 and 8 of the Seeker, which is any Royal Paladin critical triggers. For my case, I run 2 of the Revenger critical triggers because you can use Trumpeter's skill to search for him in case you want to use Abyss's skill, because Abyss's skill requires you to retire 3 Revengers. So if you have him on the field in turn 3 and you Legion with him, use him to call Trumpeter and use Trumpeter to call this guy. So then you have 3 Revenger units to kill for Abyss's skill to restand again. And then next I run 2 draws because, well, draws to quickly help you shuffle to get Thing Saver if you need him, and 4 heals. So yeah, so this is the Thing Saver deck. Some changes you can make is Grade 2 lineup. Okay, the thing about this deck is that there are many variants. The main important thing is you have 4 Thing Savers and 1 or 2 Abysses. That's the important thing. Your Grade 2 lineup, you want as many blasters as possible so that you can guarantee riding into a blaster turn 2 to use Wingle Brave skill. So there are variants. So some people only run 2 Makarts and the rest is just blasters. They run maybe 4 Blaster Dark Abyss, 4 Seeker, 3 or 4 Spirits, which I don't have. So those are variants you have. Makart is there because he is very useful to get free calls when you Legion with Abyss or Thing Saver in turn 3 or turn 4 or later. And you run some Revenger Grade 1s because Makart can only call Revenger Grade 1s. Yeah, and some of the Revenger Grade 1s are quite useful because for this one, he's a tanky attacker. Yeah. And some changes you can make on Grade 1 is that you can swap out her or him, these two, for 4 Knight of Friendship K. I don't have Knight of Friendship K because I don't have him, but having 4 Knight of Friendship K is good because on turn 2, if you ride a blaster and if you have a Knight of Friendship K, you can rush your opponent. Because it's good to rush your opponent because you want to pressure them to guard, or to at least pressure them to let your blaster hits. That way you can pull off Wingle Brave skill to search for Abyss. So now I'll go on to explain the main idea of this deck, which is there's only one purpose of this deck: to reach Thing Saver and swing opponent 3 times with Thing Saver, and that is going to be how this deck works. And that's why this deck is so good, because it's consistent, number 1. Number 2, it swings really hard. So let's go to the example, how it works. Oh, I realized I didn't talk about the skills of the cards. But the skills of cards aren't really important. The only ones you need to know is Thing Saver's skill, Abyss's skill, your Wingle Brave skill, Make Laden skill, and your Attacker skill, as well as Masquerade skill. So Thing Saver's skill, if you guys don't know, the first one is Legion. So you Legion with Blaster Blade Seeker. And his second skill is what is important. So basically, after he attacks a Vanguard, Counterblast 2, Soul Blast 2, Soul Blast 3, discard 2 cards, then you Superior Ride a Thing Saver from your deck, and then you perform Legion with a Blaster Blade Seeker from your soul. So yeah. So essentially, he's a restander, but it's a very complicated restand. And in order to restand twice in one turn, you need to have 5 souls. And that's the purpose of Abyss. Abyss's skill is, during the turn he performs Legion, after he attacks a Vanguard, you can Counterblast 2 and kill 3 Revengers, and then he restands. But you don't use his skill because you want to save Counterblast for him. All the Blaster Blades, there are some variant of Counterblast and retire, but you're not going to use his skill because you don't use skill. The only reason for having Grade 2 Blasters is so that you can pull off Wingle skill. Wingle skill is that when he boosts a Blaster and it hits a Vanguard, you can put him in the soul, and then you can search your deck for a Blaster unit. So he is there to search for Abyss. And my card skill is when your Vanguard performs Legion, so it can be Thing Saver or Abyss. Search your deck for a Revenger, Grade 1 or lower Revenger, and call it to R as rest. So basically he's there to get free units. Lake Maiden Lien is when you rest her, discard a card from your hand and draw a card. So she's there to set up your drop zone and to filter your deck for a Thing Saver. His skill is when you call him, if your Vanguard is in Legion, he gains 4k. So he's there as a bit stick, 11k bit stick for 1 turn. Knight of Friendship K. Okay, this is not K, but if you have K, his skill is if a Vanguard has a Blaster in his card name, he's a 10k attacker. So K is a 10k attacker for Blaster. So ideally run K because turn 2 you have Blasters. Masquerade is 10k attacker for Revenger. So by turn 2 or turn 3, if you have a Revenger Vanguard, he swings for 10k. It's a good for pressure. Trumpeter skill is when you call her out. Counterblast 1. Search your deck for a grade 0 Revenger. Call it out as rest. She's only there as a backup to use Abyss's skill, but usually you don't use her skill, you just use Thing Saver skill. So yeah, so those are the skills of this cards in this deck. Okay, so this is how a typical game would go. So turn 1, you would write something, and maybe you can, if you have Lake Maiden, start using her. Sorry, no, yeah, by resting and dropping, let's say something useful, like this, and hopefully draw into something better. So basically, Lake Maiden is there to try to fish out for your Thing Savers. Yeah. So let's say you draw into Thing Saver. And now turn 3, this is the key thing. Sorry, now turn 2, you write a Blaster, okay? And if you have cards like Friendship K, or cards, yeah, basically if you have cards like that, or let's say you have Masquerade, let's say if you write into a Revenger instead, you can use Masquerade. Because you should start pushing with them, because turn 2 you definitely want your Vanguard to hit being boosted by Wingle Brave, because you want to pull off Wingle Brave skill to search for your Abyss, definitely. Because so on turn 2, if you start rushing like this, you pressure your opponent to at least guard the cheap attacks and let your Vanguard hit, because your Vanguard swings for 14k. And the thing is, they wouldn't normally guard 15k for 3 pass, so they'd rather let it put through and guard your rear guards for 5k, because which is cheaper. So by turn 2, if you can, try rushing them, so that you can almost guarantee your Vanguard hitting. So if this is, because this is Knight of Friendship K, I don't have him, so this is a proxy. So swing, swing, and swing, it hits. Use your skill, put in the soul, search your deck for that 1 Abyss. And because he's also a Blaster, put in your hand. Now, next, turn 3, you would then write him, and let's say if you have this guy out, use him there, and then perform Legion. And by then, by early game, you want to use Lake of Maiden as many times as you want, because you want your drop zone to have at least 4 cards in your drop zone. So use Lake Maiden often and hopefully to fish up for Thing Savers. Then perform Legion by turn 3, ideally. Turn 3, perform Legion. When card skill activates, you can call out your Revenger, Masquerade, or Trumpeter as rest. So if you want to use a business skill, call Trumpeter. Trumpeter skill, call a Revenger null, grade 0. Then you can attack with this, kill 3 Revengers, and then restand. But ideally you wouldn't want to use his skill, because he is mainly there to accelerate your soul. So you just call out Masquerade, and then therefore your field is filled up. Early game, sort of, yeah. Then by turn 4, ideally, you will write into Thing Saver, perform Legion, and then you would have, now if you notice, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 souls. 5 souls is ideally what you need to be able to have Thing Saver go off twice. So there you go, Legion. And if you have 4 counterblasts already, 4 damage available already, start killing your opponent. So what you do is swing, skill, counterblast 2, soul blast 1, 2, 3. Superior write a Thing Saver from deck as stand, and then you do Legion with your soulmate, which is him. Next, swing again, second attack, skill again, counterblast 2. Now you have exactly 3 souls. Oops, my bad, yeah. Soul blast 3, restand, sorry, and then superior right from your deck again, then you soulmate, swing again for 20k. So that is the main idea of a Thing Saver deck. So this is the Thing Abyss deck that was so famous in Japan, and it was so good in Japan. So if you want to make it now, make it quick before Bushiroad bans it in English. I'm not sure if Bushiroad will do that, but yeah. So this has been a Thing Saver Abyss deck profile. It's not really my original deck profile because it's a deck I found online. You can find a lot of this kind of decks online because it's really good. So if you want to build it, but it's going to be expensive. So yeah. So if you like my video, thumbs up. If you like my content, do subscribe. And this has been LJS, and I'll see you guys next time.